Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of OP Radio. I'm your host, Mac. OP Radio is a weekly Twitter space / podcast we host every week on Wednesday at 4:20 p.m. UTC to talk about anything and everything in the Optimism ecosystem. We have another great episode lined up for you. Before we have our guest introduce himself, though, I would like to once again welcome my colleague, Mr. Smith. Good morning, Smith.
Good morning. It's been a while since I've gotten an intro like that from you, Mac. I love it. Excited to be here. Yeah. My name is Smith. I lead the DeFi team here at Optimism and excited to chat with our guest here today. Today we have Perpetual Protocol, specifically Jamie here. So Jamie, why don't you give a quick intro on who you are and kind of how you got started in crypto and the space in general?
Yeah, sure. So I work with Perpetual Protocol. I'm part of their marketing team, and I've been working with the protocol for just over a year now. Yeah, and I first got into crypto because I was like interested in trading and kind of explored like forex and stocks and stuff like that. But then I found out like crypto is way more accessible. It's a bit more of a level playing field for the little guy. And yeah, just from then on, I just like kind of went down like the rabbit hole. And yeah, the wild trading and like the economic side of it brought me into the space. What really like kept me in the space was like kind of the philosophical and like the activism side of the crypto movement, pretty much.
That's awesome. And I noticed that you said that you did Forex and a little bit of the TradFi stuff back in the day. How do you think that compares to sort of like the crypto trading that's going on chain these days versus what you were looking at before?
Yeah, so I didn't get too deep into like forex and stocks. I was just like kind of like going on a journey of like educating myself about trading and then just dabbling in like forex, like trading currency pairs. But then like going into crypto, it was a lot different. It was easier to set up. It was way more accessible. Yeah, but the main thing is like the market was like a lot more volatile as well. So like I suppose in a way it's like kind of easier to make money if you know what you're doing as a trader as well. So yeah, I'd just say like there's like a lot more opportunity there as well because it's a much younger industry, and yeah, there's way more opportunity, I think.
Totally. And yeah, I think that information asymmetry existed a lot more maybe like a year or two ago, and it's slowly becoming more sophisticated, but I totally understand.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you give us a quick intro on what Perpetual Protocol is? Maybe you can go into a little bit of the architecture and why you guys are building what you're building.
Yeah. So Perpetual Protocol is basically a DEX where you can trade perpetual futures. So if you're not familiar with perpetual futures, basically they're like futures contracts. So it's a derivative, but they never expire. So yeah, perpetual swaps were made famous by centralized exchanges like BitMEX, and I think they were introduced around 2014, 2015, and it's an innovation that's actually native to the crypto sector. And yeah, basically you can get leverage and trade different cryptos and get price exposure, or you can use it to hedge or do arbitrage as well. And yeah, so we're building on Optimism. We're only on Optimism, so we're not on any other chains. And so what we're basically doing is like we're trying to make like perpetual swaps a lot more accessible and open source and transparent as well. Because if you ever used like an exchange like BitMEX or any of these other centralized exchanges, it's like a black box model. There's like a lot of controversy around whether these exchanges are like trading against their customers or running their stops to liquidate them so they can buy a new Lambo or whatever. But yeah, we're just trying to make it like a fairer, more transparent, level playing field for people that want to trade and they want to invest in like the crypto sector. And yeah, so what's unique about Perp is that it's based on Uniswap v3's architecture. So pretty much everything is on chain. So we're like fully on chain. And the other main advantage is that we're very composable. So other projects can like actually use Perpetual Protocol as a building block to create like interesting applications. And yeah, recently as well, we've also kind of branched out. So the core product is basically a DEX. So that's for like kind of geared towards like sophisticated traders or people that understand derivatives or, people that are kind of experienced in trading. But then what we're doing, we're kind of branching out to like become a trustless crypto trading platform. So we'll speak about it a bit more in space, but yeah, there's like basically a new product we've launched recently that will help people who are more like passive traders, like they're not maybe not as sophisticated or maybe not as experienced, or maybe they don't know as much about trading, but they can still like get involved and invest in crypto in that way.
Absolutely. And yeah, we definitely will talk about that. I think the thing about perps are it's super daunting to use as a first time user. You don't want to just go deep into like the derivative space right away. So it's always been like a product for the sophisticated. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. I'm curious what you mentioned that you are built on top of like Uni v3, you talked about composability, fully on
Mhm.
chain. Could you kind of
Yep.
give me like the reason why you guys decided to go with this type of architecture? Maybe just break it down. Like why, what's like, I think I understand on chain really well because you kind of
hmm
want everything to be extremely transparent. If you have an off chain component, there's like a level of trust that you're giving up. But why on top of
Yep.
Uni v3? Talk to me about like that composability.
Okay, yeah. So the co-founders of Perpetual Protocol, they were really inspired by like Uniswap v3. Sorry, not v3, like the original version of Uniswap. In the early days of DeFi. So Uniswap brought a lot of innovation to the table, and they also were inspired by like synthetics, what they were doing. So really like they were quite early, DeFi OG projects that really kind of sparked the idea for Perpetual Protocol, and basically the idea was to build something like where you could, we could build something on top of these protocols, or like, like to 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 basically like create a Uniswap, but for derivatives, basically. So I'll explain like the architecture as well. So basically, what you're doing when you're trading on Perp, you're trading through Uniswap v3 pools. So and they're actually exclusive to the protocol. So when you're trading on these pools, that's how you enter your derivatives positions, right? So normally on a centralized exchange, it works a bit differently. It's, it's a bit different. So, but with Perpetual Protocol, you're actually trading like virtual tokens. So we have these virtual token pools. So if you wanted to trade like OP, for example, or ETH, you're actually removing or adding virtual OP or virtual ETH in these Uniswap pools. So basically, we're using the V3 architecture as a pricing engine for the DEX.
Got it. Got it. And I think we mentioned that there's a level of composability by using that type of model with virtual tokens on Uni v3. How does that work with like developers? Like, what is the composability accomplishing? Are you allowing devs to build very unique products with that design?
Yeah, so it's like what I said before. Like, so the protocol is basically a building block. So you can create a lot of interesting applications on top of that. Just like Perpetual Protocol itself is created on top of Uniswap v3's architecture. Anyone can come in and they could create, like, it could be vaults, or it could be like other sorts of products, maybe like stable coins as well. So like there's a lot of interesting applications, and it just opens up this really like wide and varied like design space for other builders to like really like push the limits of DeFi as well. And yeah, like to just like something that's not really possible with like the standard like perpetual swaps on like centralized platforms.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think the design space is definitely large, which is why I think it's important to definitely keep educating the developers on exactly the details of that composability, but also how to get involved. But we can totally talk about more of the CTAs there towards the end. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about the on-chain derivatives landscape and benefits. So we talked through a couple of them earlier, but I just wanted to get your take on, let's start with transparency. How do you guys think about transparency in general? Why did you guys decide to go this way? I assume it makes it a little bit more expensive when things are completely on chain. But yeah, walk us through like the methodology there.
Yeah, so Yeah, we're like big believers in, like on-chain finance, decentralized finance and open source software, open source projects. And, that's one of the reasons why, we have like this synergy with Optimism, like with the recent release of like the OP stack, it's like completely open source and it's really like committed to like funding public goods and that sort of thing. So we think so transparency is important, when it comes to like regulation as well. Like, so with like decentralized platforms, it's kind of, it might be a bit difficult to see like how they're operating or what exactly they're doing. But, with something that's like fully on chain, you can see everything that's happening. Like you could literally like, you don't, the regulators that like have all the information that they need basically, or not just regulators, but like anyone. So anyone that's trading or using the protocol or anyone that's like interested in the protocol, they can really see like what's happening on chain. And we think that's really important. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's basically kind of the gist of it.
no, I think that was great. I wanted to touch back on a point you mentioned earlier, which is when you look at centralized exchanges like BitMEX and even some of the larger ones, you'll notice that there's some sort of like fake flow going on for sure, exchange trading against traders, and whoever has that information first, that price data, they always have an advantage, right? So when it's completely on chain, it's completely transparent. You can effectively trust a lot of those models. I definitely agree with you there. You mentioned details on composability earlier, so we don't need to touch on it too much, but I wanted to understand what types of things can you build on top of Perpetual Protocol that maybe aren't for traders, because it's very like a trader heavy product, but
hmm
with like a completely open source stack and composability, there are a lot of things you can build. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I think one of the main use cases is like building vaults. So that's just like making it easier to get involved. Maybe you're not like a sophisticated trader. So vaults kind of take away like a lot of the hard work and, the sort of like, you don't really need much experience. And obviously there's like different trade-offs and different benefits and risks of different vaults. But, we have several partners who have built vaults on top of Perp, so such as Brahma, Tea House Finance. And yeah, there's actually through our support docs through our website, there's actually an ecosystem map that people can check out for like the full kind of overview of everything that's built on top of Perp. But yeah, like another sort of interesting application that I find interesting is the trading view strategy integration. So if you're familiar with trading view, which is like a charting platform, that's a very popular charting platform used by traders. There's actually like a strategy feature on this charting platform. And basically what this strategy feature allows you to do is like to automatically place trades depending on a certain strategy that you want to use. So what how that works is basically like you can you could set up like a server and then it actually connects to Perpetual Protocol. So you can like automatically place trades. So you don't really need to like stand in front of a chart and really like do it manually or execute it manually. Sometimes when you're sleeping, like you may get a signal like to buy, to go long, to go short. But then with this tool built by one of our community members, you can actually automate that process and it just makes your life a lot easier. And then there's also like a lot of like visualization and kind of data kind of tools that are built on top of Perp. So, that's more helping on like the maker side. So for people that are like providing liquidity, so they can like simulate their positions. So a couple of examples are Perp Sim built by our partners over at Component Finance. And there's also another similar tool built by DeFi Labs as well. And then, yeah, I think I mentioned the vaults already, but there's like other structured products. So it's like a Lemma Finance, Diamond Protocol. So they're kind of similar to vaults. It kind of falls in that category of structured products. So they're kind of like more geared to people who are a bit more passive as compared to active traders.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for going through all that. It's just great to see that there are like a variety of different tools that you can build on top of the stack. That's awesome. I wanted to quickly touch on community ownership just to
hmm
see how Perpetual Protocol is thinking about the future of their DAO and how they think about the community owning the protocol.
Yeah, sure. So I think the one of the biggest points to touch on in terms of community ownership is like the open source nature, right? So anyone can like look at the code and kind of kind of contribute in that way. So yeah, like it's fully open source, and we have like a lot of open source tools as well, like so like maker bots and arbitrage bots that anyone can actually use as well. So kind of makes life easier if you wanna like automate those processes. But I think the biggest point is like to do with the tokenomics. So actually with I think it was released like towards the end of last year. There's like a fee sharing feature. So basically anyone who owns the perp token, they can actually lock it up, and then they can benefit from like higher trading volumes through the exchange. So 15% of the trading fees generated actually go to the V perp holders. So V perp is basically like the locked version of perp. If you're familiar with like curve finance, it's basically like a similar model to their model. And yeah, we just think that that's quite important, just like bringing in the community, like sharing the revenues with the token holders. And it's kind of aligning the interests of the token holders with like the success of the project. So if you think about it, if you think about like the token holders, like they're going to benefit when the trading volumes rise because there's going to be more fees generated. And then so that gives them the incentive to like bring more people on board, more people to the exchange, and then it's like a win-win for everyone. So there's more volume for the DEX, and then that means more fees are being generated, and that means the perp holders or the token holders, they're going to earn more.
Completely agree. I think that element of bringing value to your community and the people that are sort of like there for the DAO is super important. It's always a promise that every DAO hopes to achieve at some point. So glad to see that Perp is acting on it. Okay, time to switch gears a little bit to a little bit of alpha. So we wanted to talk about the product that Perp is launching, like the thing that you guys have been working on in stealth for a while, the hot tub vaults. Could you explain to me sort of how it works? What would you like to tell the world about these vaults and this new product?
All right, yeah. So the hot tub vaults, yeah, it's a very interesting product. I think it's been just over a month since they've been launched. So yeah, like I mentioned before, vaults are like a one of the main kind of sort of like products that can be built on top of Perp using it as like a building block, like a DeFi building block, right? So the aim of these vaults is basically to like make life easier for like passive traders, people who are not very active traders, or like maybe they're like new to crypto, or they're just seeking some yield. They just want to like grow their crypto holdings, and maybe they're not like well versed in like technical analysis or trading. They just want an easy way to like to stack more crypto, or stack more Gwei, or stack more USDC. So the first set of vaults, basically they perform like an arbitrage strategy between spot markets and perpetual markets on Optimism. So if you think about arbitrages, I think with like non-directional trading, it's more like institutions and more sophisticated players doing these type of strategies, and then like retail traders, I think they mainly focus on like directional strategies, like going long or short. So the hot tub vaults, the first set of hot tub vaults actually, yeah, so they're using like an arbitrage strategy and kind of just packaging that into a vault. So it's quite a sophisticated strategy. Like it's all done on chain. But yeah, so people can like simply deposit ETH into the ETH vault, and or they can deposit USDC into the USDC vault. And basically the funds in these vaults are then used to execute an arbitrage strategy. So yeah, in simple terms, arbitrage is like buying low, selling high, instantly or near instantly, and then just like exploiting price differences between the spot market and perpetual markets on Optimism. And this is for ETH, so it's for Ethereum. But then the vision is like we can expand this. So, like I said before, the design space is wide open. So we could expand this to like other assets as well. So there could be like an OP vault. So you could do the same thing with OP, like doing arbitrage strategy for the OP market. And then, it's not just new assets as well that you could expand it to. You could expand like to different strategies as well. Like maybe it's not just simply like a price arbitrage strategy. It could be like funding rate arbitrage. So it could be exploiting like the differences between funding rates between different exchanges on that are based on Optimism, and yeah, like generating like a yield through that way as well. But yeah, the the overview basically is like it's aimed at like newbies or risk averse kind of people that are involved in crypto. Maybe they're not coders or they're not traders, but they can benefit from using these vaults by basically, the vaults basically are just executing like these sophisticated like on-chain strategies on their behalf. And yeah, it's all done on Optimism. And the this is just like one set of vaults like that we've launched already, but there's going to be many more in the future, and there's going to be like a wide variety of like different strategies and different assets. So like we're really going to we really want to achieve that aim of becoming like a trustless trading platform that anyone can use. Yeah, with these hot tub vaults.
Yeah, and just to emphasize this again, I think this is super awesome, right? These are sophisticated strategies that normally you have to be a coder or a trader to benefit from, right? Like arbitrage is something that like takes a lot of time to figure out the small kinks and nuances with, and now you can just deploy funds to a smart contract on Optimism and it does the strategy for you. So I think that goes back to that idea of like there are great, amazing structured products that you can build on top of composability. And this is just one example of an amazing product that you can build on top of Perpetual Protocol. So yeah, really excited about this. What asset classes are you planning on expanding to after ETH?
We're looking at. I think the next one is going to be like stable coins. So people who are risk averse. Maybe they don't want to have price exposure to different crypto assets. So maybe they want to play it safe, holding like DAI or USDT or USDC. So I think there's going to be more vaults for like stable coins. But yeah, I should also mention that we're kind of just like, we're going to take the approach where we're kind of going to experiment with like different features, see what works, kind of like just iterate it, just seeing what works and seeing what the opportunities are. And yeah, just like exploring that design space in a safe way, but also like in a way where, it benefits these users that I mentioned earlier.
Very cool. Very cool. I wanted to touch on one last point with Perp and sort of your guys' product.
Hmm.
And it's this concept of the lazy river and how people can earn like a specific type or stablecoin yield from the fees. I think you touched on it earlier, but do you want to just give your thoughts on it just to kind of close it out?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Lazy River is the kind of the name we gave to like the fee sharing feature, right? So basically the token holders they can lock up to receive VE-PUB. So yeah, as I mentioned before, it's basically similar to Curve's VE CRV sort of tokenomic system. And what they can do is they can lock up perp for up to like 52 weeks is the max, but they can lock up to like maybe 10 weeks or anything up to 52 weeks, and they can start earning a yield in USDC. And this yield actually comes from the trading fees, like I mentioned earlier, like 15% of the trading fees paid out weekly to these token holders, and it's proportional to their share of VE-PUB. So, and I think one of the most interesting aspects is that it doesn't just depend on like the amount of tokens you lock. It also depends on the duration. So, if someone only locks like, 10,000 per, but they only lock it for like 10 weeks, but then someone could like lock 2,500 per, but they lock it for 40 weeks, they'd both get the same share of the trading fees because they have the same amount of VPUP. So it's kind of aligning the people who really like believe in the protocol and want to see the protocol succeed. And yes, so when the protocols become more successful, it's like they're earning more, they're getting more out of it. So, and I'll also mention like Lazy River is, it kind of differs to the vaults because anyone that wants to participate in that, they're taking on a little bit more risk, right? Because they're exposed to the price. But yeah, if they really believe in the project, then I don't think they're gonna care as much, about the price exposure. But the main thing is like that it's offering like a steady yield, which is based on like real market activity. So they're earning the fees that a portion of the fees that are generated from the trading volume on the DEX. Yeah, they're also earning like VPUP as well. So you can actually compound your gains. So on Lazy River, you actually earn like an additional 10% of the trading fees in VPUP. So it's not actually taken from the trading fees, but it's just like to incentivize people to really like, get involved in the tokenomics and, to help them like earn a better yield as well.
Absolutely. And the design space for just like tokenomics and like vote locking and all that is very vast. So definitely urge anybody to just go check out their docs. They'll talk about it a lot more there. And maybe you can give some CTAs in general where they can keep up. I wanted you to maybe touch on this last point of ETH Taipei. Recently, ETH Taipei just concluded, and Perpetual Protocol was, I believe, one of the organizers of the event. Could you just talk through your thoughts on it and how it went, and maybe what you guys see for the scene in Taipei going forward?
Yeah, so ETH Taipei was a 5-day event. There was a hackathon over the first 3 days, and then the final 2 days there was a conference with a lot of interesting talks. And it was actually the first ETH Taipei ever. So it was a really like interesting kind of historical event, especially for people here in Taiwan. And yeah, with there was a lot of builders and projects that are actually based on Optimism sponsoring the event and attending the event and giving talks as well. So yeah, I'll probably just shout out a couple of them. Apart from Perp, there was like Furu Combo, Polynomial, and Lyra. They're part of like the synthetics ecosystem. So there was a lot of people. There was a few people from those projects that I met. Yeah, so there was like it was a really like interesting event because you have all of these builders who like are really interested in like the OP ecosystem. And they're really interested in like on-chain derivatives and yeah, just like bringing the Taiwanese community together, but also like people from other countries as well. Yeah, and it was just like a really insightful event. A lot of insightful talks. I mean, not an insightful event, but yeah, a lot of insightful talks. And hopefully we can do it again next year. Yeah, we can get the Optimism team as well.
Absolutely. And I love that you guys are growing the scene in Taipei. I think that's really awesome. Great. I think that's it for us. Did you want to call out any CTAs for Perp and any last things that maybe the community should know about with Perpetual Protocol?
Yeah. So they can find out more about Perpetual Protocol perp.com. Yeah, if you're listening and you're interested in the hot tub vaults, you can check that out at vaults.perp.com. So you can earn yield on Ethereum and USDC at the moment. But yeah, we'll be launching new vaults in the near future. And if you're interested in like the Lazy River, the tokenomic staking, you can go to token.perp.com. And yeah, just follow us on Twitter at Perp Protocol. And yeah, just join our Discord if you have any questions as well. And yeah, I'll just say like to check out our blog on Mirror as well, which is another great optimism project. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I think, Mac, if you can hear us, you can wrap up. Otherwise, I can wrap up as well.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me is the question.
I can hear you, sir.
Awesome. I'm back. Thank you. Thank you so much for leading that conversation, Smith. And thanks once again, Jamie, for joining us. Just a reminder for everybody listening, we hold OP Radio every Wednesday. So we'll catch you again next week. Hope you have a great rest of your day. See you later, everybody. Stay optimistic.